to this webinar on the Levelling Up Goals. I know often you'll be seeing Ian Dale presenting, but today is going to be me running the panel. And it's a really important special Levelling Up Goals webinar for us because we have a fantastic panel. I have to say, speaking as a woman, it's full of women. So this is great female gender representation happening on this particular webinar. But actually where we're really going to be focused is two of the Levelling Up goals in particular. The first is Levelling Up Goal 3, which is about post-16 positive destinations. And the second is Levelling Up Goal 6, which is all about progression. And the seminar is being hosted effectively by the Northumbria University. And this has been a key supporter of the Levelling Up goals and has really, as an institution, put it at the heart of what it's all about. And I'll turn to you in a second, Lucy, but I think in a way, this webinar is all about how we can have opportunities on the doorstep, but of course, it's recognizing that it's not quite that simple. It's not just about opportunities being close to home for people, great opportunities. It's also about them knowing how they can actually connect up with them and having a sense of what those opportunities mean so that they know to aim for them. So it's about how we can bring all of those parts of the ecosystem together, but we'll get into that as this webinar progresses. Lucy, tell us a little bit about what Northumbria is doing, but also crucially for you as a university that really produces those graduates for the region, how you see your role in making sure the Northeast has got the talent it needs for its future success.
Thanks, Justine. Thank you very much. Afternoon, everyone. We're really pleased to be hosting this. And as you say, this levelling up agenda and social mobility really is at the core of our thinking about how we, A, attract our students to Northumbria, B, retain them, support them, make sure that they don't drop out. But I think if I was going to have a theme for this afternoon, it's around 3 C's. It's about confidence. It's about giving young people the confidence to think early about the possibilities of going to university, or to FE. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my second C, which is collaboration or partnership working. So everyone on this call knows one another. I've worked with almost everyone on this call, and that is because we are all supporting the young people in the Northeast on this agenda. And the third one is connections. My third C is connections with employers, and hence us all knowing one another. And that is, again, making sure that the young people in our region are aware of the opportunities right on their doorstep. So they understand the sorts of businesses that Tracy and Karen, and they'll talk about their businesses, and Beth opening up the campus in the Northeast. They understand the opportunities for them, and they don't think that's an opportunity for someone else. We get them at a really young age to think through that could be an opportunity for us. So I would say about 85% of our students probably self-identify as coming from a disadvantaged background of one kind or another. And the very vast majority of our students, not all, want to stay in the Northeast. And wearing another hat as chair of the Northeast Local Enterprise Partnership, it's really important that we, everyone on this call, works together with the LEP, with the mayoral combined authority and the local authorities and so on, to make sure that the very best jobs and opportunities are available in the region. So I could talk all afternoon about the different examples and packages we have. An example quickly would be, we're launching next week the Into Centre with Newcastle University, a centre which will focus on young people from the age of 7 up to 18, thinking about the opportunities of universities and working with business. And that will include family support. So a young person doesn't come home and say, Mummy, Daddy, I want to be a scientist, to be told they can't. That's not what girls do around here. It is about that family support and education as well, and that whole package. Justine, I'm going to pause because there are 101 initiatives and there's a lot of people on the call. But confidence, connections, collaboration. Thanks.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. And I think maybe I'll come to you first, Liz, actually. So we're talking, as Lucy has been, about your students, and I can really relate to those 3 C's. You know, when I was growing up in Rotherham, I had never met a lawyer, I'd never met an architect, I'd never met anyone who'd set up a business. even though it was something I was quite interested in doing, like my own business. I didn't know anyone who ran one or set one up. And so there's definitely the 3 C's that come out of all of that, because if you're not even aiming for an opportunity, you're not going to get there. But Liz, for your students, did those 3 C's obviously resonate, but where are they coming from on the careers that they're looking at? What does good look like for a lot of them, do you think? How is that changing as well over time, would you say?
Thank you. Well, as I'm going to build on Lucy's point, Newcastle is probably one of the very best places for learners coming in at any level, because the FE colleges, the universities, and I believe the employers all really work together for the greater good. And so to answer your question, what happens with our students, we need to make sure that our students in FE have the aspiration to either go on to join Lucy's university and get into an academic career in those higher skills levels, or to have the recognition that there is indeed a parity of respect for skills at any level, and that we need skilled, young and indeed reskilled people to enter the workforce in the North East to create that economic regeneration that we all talk about all the time and that we strive for. NCG's mission and vision is to create social mobility through economic prosperity.
This is the Newcastle College Group for people.
It is. But we also have a national footprint, which is why we tend to use the acronym. But our heart is in Newcastle, and we have an ambition for this social mobility, economic prosperity, but always through exceptional education, which is what we all do. And employers who work with us to deliver really good skills and training are also contributing to exceptional education. So I think we're at a very interesting juncture, because COVID has taught us that we can do things differently. It's also taught us that that the skills that we have taken for granted are not the skills that we are going to necessarily need in the future. And so at the college level, we have to build into our curriculum those soft social skills that we are actually not necessarily teaching young people, because they're not in the workplace in the traditional sense, the way that we were. But digital skills, the use of technology, the ability to engage remotely, to manage projects and to be self-sufficient are becoming really the buzzwords of the future, and the ways in which our young people, or those who are looking for new career opportunities, are going to be able to engage with employers. But we as educators have to listen to the voice of employers. And if what they tell us is they need digital literacy, first and foremost, they need gaming skills, first and foremost, they need technical skills of a particular kind, then we must listen and learn from those employers, and then convert our curriculum to ensure that those skills are then applied in our teaching. But I'm going to match Lucy's 3C's with 3A's. For me, really important that we create ambition, and ambition at lots of levels. It's not just about ambition to get into university, but ambition to add value to our society. And we need our young people to have a second A, which is aspiration. If you can do it, I can do it. If I can do it, they can do it. So we need to create ambition and aspirations through our curriculum. But most of all, to enable people to work at any level, they have to have the business acumen, the third A, that enables them to either join a big firm or join an SME, or to set up as a micro business and as an entrepreneur, using the skills that they have learned at college or at university to create that environment that we want in the North East, where people have sticky feet, they've had a great learning experience, and they want to stay in the area because they want to be part of the North East's really ambitious, successful future.
Well, and I think, again, I can draw on my own experience, but I remember one of the first things I realised when I was growing up in Rotherham was that I probably wasn't going to be able to stay there for the opportunities that I was already thinking I might want. And to be honest, feeling pretty sad about the fact that that would mean I'd have to move away from my family, because it was a really close-knit family. And so I think for me, it's very much about choice, isn't it? The choice to be able to have a fulfilling, strong, fantastic career right where you are. I probably would have headed off and found out about other parts of the country and the world, whatever, but it shouldn't be something you have to do. And that's really, really important. And I guess for you in British Vault, Tracy, Liz was talking about new skills, almost the what in terms of work, but also the how. People are literally success means behaving differently in the future to the past. But I suppose, for British Vault, for a lot of Liz's students, it's a concept, isn't it? You know, it's not like they would know all about what the kind of technology that you're involved with and building a company around is all about. So how do you go about literally helping people understand what British Volt means, but in terms of the careers it's opening up for them and what they might need to be doing if they're in one of those colleges that Liz is involved with?
I think British Volt has taken a couple of different approaches. One of those are looking at the not the easy wins, but more the people that we know will be ready. And when we say ready, we don't just mean as in education and skills levels. We mean they're in a good place to be able to start employment with us and have that unique training journey with British Volt. That I know they are working really closely and talking to a lot of colleges and universities to make sure that we get there. But what I love about the model that the British Volt have is they're not looking for the easy wins. They're looking for really digging deep into communities and reaching the people who, for a wealth of reasons, whether that may be social issues, whatever that may be, everybody gets a piece of the pie. Everybody can move closer and sort of ride this journey with British Volt. So hence bringing me on board in the work that I'll be doing. So
and what does that mean, Tracy? So what are some of the things that you're, because it's easy to say, I suppose, isn't it? But what you're getting into now is, so how do we crack that nut?
Okay, really, this is my bread and butter, I guess. What British Volt got right was choosing somebody who lives and works in the communities where all of this is going on, and the biggest impact of the Giga Plan coming is going to be. And my background is third sector. This is my first role within the private sector. So this was really, so I'm not going to lie, I came on board with a little bit of cynicism and thought, right, okay, let me suss out if this is a tick and box exercise. And I think what is so unique is that the business hasn't even been built yet. The carcass of the building isn't there yet. They have set up a charitable enterprise, BB Future Gen, that now exists. So the fact that they've put the cart, after the horse is fantastic, because what they're doing is that they want to really embed themselves and capture the people who are furthest from the jobs market, capture those who have low aspirations, capture those young people who maybe haven't had that family support at home, who due to socioeconomic background or whatever that may be, just feel that they're not good enough. And it's quite sad that there are people in our communities that have that. We're not just dealing with a lack of skills, we're dealing with a mindset, a particular mindset.
Which is Liz's confidence piece, I guess, isn't it?
Absolutely. And there is a small minority, but I've worked with families whose parents actually encourage their children to go on benefits because it's easier for them and it suits them and their lifestyle, and they see it as a lifestyle choice rather than the stopgap that it was supposed to be. So it isn't just about that skills and education piece, it's also around that mindset and culture of let's grow this together, that let's have pride and let what communities thrive. You make a change in one house, you make a change in a street, which makes a change in a locality, and how can we do this together? And this isn't just about British Volt and our work, this is about bringing together training providers, third sector organisations, the local authority and other employers to all have a stake in this and be really passionate about, we want our talent to come locally. Let's stop looking for that polished product. Let's find that young person and do the polishing ourselves so that, we can mold this young person into who they want to be. And it's not about, having fattening turkeys for Christmas, having a sausage machine of a workforce in the British Volt. It's exactly what was said earlier, which is, as long as that's your choice, as long as you're doing it because that's your choice and not because you feel you have to or because your parents have done it or that's your only option. It's around, let's do it because it's a choice and because you feel passionate about it.
I think it's really exciting, and I'm going to turn to you now, Beth. As soon as Tracy talked about polished people, I immediately thought of all those teams that I used to work with at Treasury, which is, are some of the most talented civil servants across government. But it's a big project that you're now leading as a Treasury lead on that Darlington Economic Campus, and in a way, British Volt's one kind of brand new roles that are arriving in the Northeast, but tell us a little bit about that project for that campus and the sorts of roles you're bringing up, but also your take on Tracy's challenge of how do you then build into those communities to make sure that people locally think, I can work on that campus in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks very much for having me. It's great to be here as a relative newcomer to the Northeast. As you say, for those who don't know, we've recently set up the new economic campus in Darlington, and that's basically 6 government departments doing jobs that were previously all done in London, in very vast majority of cases, doing them here in Darlington, and giving a much wider range of people from different backgrounds the opportunity to work in the civil service. For the Treasury in particular, it's a really big departure. We've basically only ever really been based in London, and I think it's just an incredibly important part of the broader levelling up agenda. And so far, for me personally, it's been one of the best things I've done in my career. It's hugely exciting and energising to be here and to be setting this up. We're, from a Treasury perspective, we're already on track to have 100 jobs here by March, and I think it's going to be about nearly 200 overall across the department. And so far we're having a great experience in our recruitment. From the Treasury perspective, there are 20 of us who have moved, but the vast majority of the other jobs are all being directly recruited in from people in the region, and of those people, the vast majority have never worked in the civil service before. They're from all different previous experiences and backgrounds: private sector, public sector, charities. Great people who are already adding loads of value, and there's just great energy here, which is brilliant.
And you finding they're bringing a different perspective? What
yeah, I mean,
your initial reflections on all of that?
It's early days, obviously, but inevitably, yes. I mean, it may sound like a small point. We're already getting lots of challenge on our acronyms and kind of funny ways of doing things in the civil service. But yeah, I mean, inevitably, it's going to bring in just a different set of perspectives, experiences, approaches, and that's absolutely what this is all about. I would say most of our recruitment so far has been sort of mid-career, and we're in the middle of our latest graduate recruitment, which is for the first time we'll have graduate recruits coming directly into the office here in Darlington. But also, I think really importantly, in the next few months we'll be starting our first apprenticeship recruitment here in Darlington. I think on the point about the sort of community engagement and our role as now one of the sort of big employers in the region, I'm just really again struck by, I think, the difference that we can make in the local and regional community. We've already started getting out and about into schools, colleges, universities. We really want to be talking to people about what is a civil servant, what do we do.
So what do they say when you turn up? Because my earliest experience of civil servants was watching Mastermind, when you used to pop up, every other person sat in that black chair said they were a civil servant. I remember thinking, I have no idea what they do. It was just a 2 words. So what do these school children, your older students, say when you turn up? I'm here from Treasury and we've got some jobs coming. I guess you're starting almost from first principles on what on earth Treasury is, let alone what a civil servant might do in government departments.
That's right. And I think we tend to start from sort of who the politicians are, who are the ministers, which obviously there's some recognition of, but then what is our role in supporting them? I also think some of the language, I mean, we talk quite a lot about roles in policy in government, and that doesn't mean anything to anybody in the real world, but actually a lot of what we do is really transferable from other walks of life. It's problem solving, it's taking a challenge or an objective and thinking what are the different ways you can meet it. It's bringing together evidence and synthesizing it together and presenting it so that ministers can make decisions. And those kind of skills they're not just civil service skills, they're skills you find in other walks of life as well, and quite a lot of the things around leadership and team building and team working and all of that, which is very transferable. So one of the messages we want to give is not just what it's like to be a civil servant, but also that it's for a much broader range of people to think about as a job, as a career, than perhaps people would initially think.
Well, it's fascinating, and I guess I'll bring in Karen from Accenture now. And I guess for you, your whole business thrives on smart, high-skilled people, and tell us a little bit about how, for you, with a base up in the Northeast, you make sure you can get the talent that you need, and maybe some of these relationships with that education sector that's providing it.
Yeah, it's really important for us, you know, from working for a big global company that employs nearly 700,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And we have one advanced technology centre in the UK, and that's based up here in the Northeast. And, you know, we have no problem getting young grads and experienced hires that want to work for Accenture and understand what we do. But our client base is so diverse. We look after over 70 clients from the technology centre in Newcastle, and that's everything from civil service to big banks to police forces to TV and phone companies. And really, we know that to meet the needs of our clients, we need that really diverse workforce to represent and develop the solutions for that wider population. So it's really important for us to have those opportunities and to reach out to local communities and to have the pathways into those career starters, whether you're 16 or I have apprentices who are re-careering in their 40s. And it's also really important for us to not only tell everybody about the opportunities we have, and you know, we have entry-level opportunities for people with no qualifications so that they have that second chance in life to where education maybe hasn't quite worked out for them the way they'd hoped. But you know, we also want to make sure that we do a lot of work in communities to support the development of those entry-level digital skills. We know as a company we're responsible for digital displacement, and a lot of those very entry-level jobs may not exist going forwards. So it's really important for us to work in partnership with all of the different sizes of companies, all the different sectors, and just to try to support in any way we can as many people as possible to gain those entry-level opportunities into employment.
And Lucy, just on the LEP that you're obviously hugely involved in, how do you make sure that you can get those employers that are all facing similar challenges? And it's a war for talent at the moment. And so, you know, in one scenario, they're all off trying to find that brilliant person, thinking, I don't mind that, you know, so Beth's trying to get her treasury people, and maybe it doesn't matter to Beth if Accenture don't. But so literally, how do you get that collective push to make sure that for the students that Liz is working with day in, day out, that they are the solution? Because part of this is the fact that talent's there in the region, isn't it?
There's loads of talent in the region.
And it's about how it gets connected up.
Yeah, there's loads of talent in the region, and that talent really many of them want to stay in the region, or they want to go away and get some experience in London, and then they realise that the allure of London, perhaps not so tempting. The cost of living in London is quite a factor. The salary doesn't go as far as it might do in some. So we lure them back as well. And that's good. It's good that people go away and come back as well for an economy. But what I think is interesting is I don't see all of these different types of businesses in competition for that talent, because there is enough to go around. At Northumbria, we managed to put more graduates into graduate level jobs than the rest of the Russell Group put together. Apologies, friends in Russell Group University. So we're doing something right. There's a really positive story. And I think that is about the working with the vast number of businesses in the Northeast, including which are the lifeblood of the Northeast economy. And there's an awful lot of them. And it's quite challenging to get across the door of SMEs, but it's possible. And university and college programs and others have done this well. Being a little mournful of the demise, of ERDF funded projects, but they enabled us to match fund the costs of interns into SMEs, Northeast interns, which gave the business that couldn't afford to take on all of the payment of an intern half of that, and the university using ERDF money would match that. So we're going to have to work together to find new funding streams or alternative ways of supporting that. I think the other thing to bear in mind is it's not a competition just for graduates or just for apprentices. I can't think of a business I've worked with at the university or wearing my LEP hat who says, I only want PhDs, I only want graduates, I only want apprenticeships. It's an easy thing to say, universities are a waste of time, I was an apprentice and I made good, but all of the businesses I know want to blend, because they want that talent that the different levels of skills develop. And indeed, a sophisticated development scheme within a college or a university will allow those students to develop as their careers go on. Just this morning, I've been talking to the Minister of Education about different levels of development and stepping into universities and study at different times, stepping out again, stepping back in, moving credits across. In our instance, moving credits across from a Newcastle campus to a London campus to our Amsterdam campus, and those experiences as well. So I think flexibility and an understanding that it isn't one size fits all, that businesses actually want a little bit of everything, and there is enough of that to go round.
And do you feel that there's a lot, for example, that a university like Northumbria does on outreach, working, you know, with Liz's colleges, and it's the same challenge that a British Vault faces, which is your access and participation is an employer's recruitment and progression. And so there's no doubt a lot that you can share almost on the challenges you've had to face as a university that are really helpful for employers to get a sense of how you've confronted those challenges.
The most significant schemes, the ones that are having the real impact, are the schemes that we've devised with business. Be it a large business like British Vault, and we watch with great interest to see how that will grow and develop, or an SME. But these programs, the Ignite program that we operate, that is done in partnership with businesses, bringing the business in, saying we want to get the very best of the talent in the Northeast, and it's starting really early. So the outreach programs I mentioned before, the Into Centre, where we're working with families and children as young as 7. The programs we have with particular schools in partnership with local authorities, again, it's starting really early. So we're getting these young people from schools into the campus, any which way in, it doesn't matter. There's no one front door. There's lots of different ways into university, but they're wandering around, they're sharing our facilities, they're in our swimming pool, they're using our basketball court, they're doing all of these things. So the environment becomes very familiar. And hopefully they're bringing mum and dad, if they have mums and dads around, to support them. Not all even have that advantage in life. It's just breaking down the barriers and seeing what the opportunities are. And the partnerships with FE plays into all of that as well, that collaboration partnership piece.
And I will come on to that in a second, but I just wanted to quickly ask Tracy about how you develop British Vault, but then almost where your supply chain ends up fitting into all of this. So it comes back on Lucy's point really around SMEs and the fact that actually it's easy to lose sight of the fact that most people don't work in big companies, they're in much smaller companies. And yet there are organisations, employers like British Vault that can really genuinely be this, as you're saying in a way, Tracy, this anchor institution that is quite transformational. Is your sort of longer term ambition is that you develop those pipelines, you're really helping to close those gaps and opportunity, but that's something for you as a business that you like to see those firms in your supply chain be able to become part of as well, and that you can extend your influence that way?
Absolutely. I mean, part of the work that we are doing with our construction partner ISG is part of our social value remit, is actually putting into the contracts around, you know, apprenticeships, providing experiences for young people. So it's, you know, it certainly doesn't just stop and start with British Vault. And what we want to do is sort of echo that down. And part of the work that I've been involved in with Benicia Homes is to sort of create an employer consortium where we look at what is that bridge between education and employment. How as employers can we take responsibility for that and be that bridge? So what are the pathways we can create? And again, to echo, it's not about that one size fits all. It's about it's some of it might be vocational, so it might be through a T-level or through an apprenticeship. Some of it might just be work experience, but it's around those long-term relationships and those relationships with schools and colleges. So going in and doing a 1-hour workshop is fantastic, but how do we have that legacy of learning? How do we have those long-term relationships, and how do we bring our supply chain on that journey so they are part of that? They're going to add skills and roles that the British Vault can't. So how can we embed them as part of a new industrial revolution, if you like, so that they're riding this journey with us and are as passionate about our local communities as we are as well?
I think it's really exciting But Liz, I guess for you, you've got all these employers you've got to work with, the rest of the education system, because as Lucy was saying, it is all about collaboration. How do you juggle sort of almost being in the middle of all of that? Because that in itself, aside from the education piece, it's actually hugely important now for your success that you are utterly docked into what those local and regional employers not just want today, but as Tracy's setting out, what they're going to want in years' time. Is that in practice? How difficult is that? Because I personally think it must be quite a challenge for you to manage it.
There's a lot of life that's challenging, so we just suck it up. But I think the thing that's really important to remember is that FE has been working with employers literally forever, because FE is rooted in the community and it's there to serve local communities, which is dominated really by the local regional economic situation, the employment that goes on there. So at Newcastle, we have built the very grand sounding, I don't think it's the best name, but it's the Synergy Hub. And the Synergy Hub is a physical space. It's kind of, I hope it's a blueprint of the college business centres that were mentioned in the white paper, but it's a physical space where Northumbria's Newcastle Business School works with us, where employers come in and work with us. And the us is students, teaching staff, and those of us who are kind of trying to keep the whole thing on the road. And that is about role modelling, having conversations about skills, demonstrating what the workplace is like, and ensuring that within the college sector we're able to simulate the workplace so that there is a really clear transition period from classroom to workspace. For me, the one thing that's missing that I would absolutely love to have broad support for is for funding to be made available for industry to release 1 day a week, the industry experts to be in the classroom, because that's how we as teachers will teach better. It's how students will see, oh, right, that's what it's about. Oh, and you've done that. So we're talking about the ambition and the aspiration as well. But most of all, we are entering a new world. It's post-COVID, it's post-Brexit. It's where people have never been more aware of the impact on the climate, on electric motor vehicles, on modern methods of construction, on new ways of creating and heating our homes, using our energy. And yes, we need to teach it all, but first of all, we need to learn it all. And the employers have exactly the same problem, that they are the businesses who are going to be developing it, and they are learning it as we go forward. So that notion of collaboration and the real interaction, the interplay between workspace and classroom is going to be vital. In Newcastle, up near the ports, we are really blessed that we've got an energy academy. And in that space, we have been equipped primarily by stuff that employers have given to us so that we know it's absolutely fit for purpose. But our young people who are interested in getting into wind turbine maintenance can go in there and they can have the immersive experience of being at the top of a 100-foot wind turbine, and they can have the experience of actually working on a wind turbine.
I'm slightly thinking that might put them off forever.
It certainly would put me off.
Not.
It would definitely put me off, and yet they come flocking. But it's been more creative, creating spaces where the universities, the colleges and the employers can work together. Students can come into those spaces and get a taste of what it's really like. But we are on a new journey and we've got to take that journey together.
And I think it's a good time to bring in Beth on this, really, because there's hybrid learning, there's hybrid working, and actually this sense that you will study in a classroom and then finish that and then you go off and work. Apprenticeships has really been blurring that line for quite a long time. T-levels will do that even further. But Beth, from a Treasury perspective, I mean, responding to what Liz said, on the one hand, we do need more of those industry experts to be able to get into those classrooms and the FE colleges and really and a university, entrepreneurs, inspiring people, literally teaching them the trade. But at the same time, for businesses and for schools, work experience matters. And yet it's a packed curriculum, as we know, and actually there's all sorts of pressures on schools. And so for Treasury, do you feel like you're entering a new era where when you're looking at these very blended relationships that are emerging on how we actually nail levelling up, how we actually help people transition from being a young person to adult and into a career, do you think this is going to increasingly be something that you're considering as an employer, but also from a policy perspective, to make sure we're not in the way of those sorts of things just getting themselves sorted out?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason obviously we're getting more civil servants to work outside London is the sort of job opportunities point I talked about earlier, but actually also a big part of it is really understanding what's happening on the ground in different areas of the country, and being able to have these kind of conversations about some of the complexities and the way that the economy and society is evolving, and really trying to understand those. And I think from a Treasury perspective, being a department that has been so in London, I think that I mean, you know, the EU referendum, I think, was an interesting kind of moment for the Treasury, and understanding that you know, perhaps we hadn't got our sort of finger on the pulse, as it were, of everywhere around the country, because we were very London based. And I think that is a really important part of what we're trying to do here, and why we're trying to get out and talk to lots of different people in the Northeast while we're here. It's not just about recruitment, it's actually also about a deeper, richer understanding of what's happening in communities as well.
And Karen, do you feel like the partnerships that are now there in the Northeast, both across education, and they are actually very well developed, both as you were saying, Lucy, at the Northumbria, Newcastle, Teesside, all of that university, but also with the colleges. For you, as you said, an international employer, not just a regional one, those really matter. But are you seeing those partnerships getting stronger and more effective over time, and that it's easier for you to sort of be shaping that wider picture that you need in place?
Yeah, and there's definitely been, you know, a big switch. And you know, as Liz has said already, universities and colleges, especially the post-92 universities like Northumbria, and the colleges, the old polytechnics and the colleges, were very business oriented. Mm-hmm. And really do listen, and they can move very swiftly to adapt and change curriculum, and they're very open. You know, I'm finding more and more learning providers are reaching out to industry and saying, we need to make sure that we're doing the best that we can by all of our learners.
So is it almost more a culture shift in the Russell Group's sort of part of the university sector, that is they're almost in a funny way behind the kind of mentality that a Northumbria might have in some respects?
Maybe in some respects, but I do think that the delivery of apprenticeships is really helping to change and alter their view and opinions, and to help them realise that the need to be a bit more agile and work more swiftly. We're definitely reaching out to those undergraduates and postgraduates studying at all universities in a very different way now. You're getting away from the old milk rounds and trying to reach out to, through things like guest lectures and different careers opportunities, to show those students and the lecturers how we work, how we're changing, how quickly we need to be able to adapt. You know, and that's, I think, making a big difference in really showcasing the opportunities that are available across all of those different learning institutions.
And I just wanted to come back to you as well, Liz. So the way in which people are studying and learning is changing and different, you know, and you talked about business acumen, and I just thought it's so important, because I grew up thinking I wanted to work in business because it just looked exciting when I saw people who were doing business on TV. They looked like they had interesting lives, but I had no access to an office. And I think probably the first time I went into a business was when I was a student, and I used to process invoices at Murphy's Engineering, who had a little outpost in Dinnington. It's probably still there, actually, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But what does developing that business acumen look like for you? Because it's not just about big employers, is it? It's also about entrepreneurship and the fact that young people are interested in doing their own thing, and how you unlock all of that.
Yeah, and that is absolutely what our, and Lucy will concur, I'm sure, it's what our careers services do, and our enhancement services, which is about, let's learn how to be a hairdresser or a builder or a motor vehicle mechanic, and then let's have the business skills applied that mean you know how to set up your business, market it, set up a website, pay your taxes, register with the appropriate.
Beth will care about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's interested. And that's where I think the amalgamation of our business studies, because obviously there are apprenticeships in business administration, we have to be more creative in how we teach students. So it's not just the pure skills application of being a motor mechanic, it's also having underpinning it the business administration support, knowing where to look to set up your own business. And I think that this is where, you know, Northumbria University, for those who want to go on to the higher level, do it so brilliantly. And the Newcastle Business School, which comes out of Northumbria University, is doing that and really works well with our colleges to make sure that students are able to enter that independent workforce as well as into big business, which looks so exciting because they've got the appropriate support through the business clinics. And I think we're very, very joined up in the North East in terms of making that additional enhanced learning available. But I would like to just, given I have the microphone, I would like to just come back on one point about the Russell groups. I think it's really important to remember that different universities do different things. And it is perfectly reasonable and valid for Russell groups to have that academic, pedagogic, intellectual part of the educational market. But the work that the newer universities do and that the colleges do, which is about applied learning or research underpinning the application of knowledge in the workplace, is really critical.
Yes.
But in my view, it's right that it's differentiated, because not everybody is excited by business. Some people want to go down that Russell route and come out very happy, very well informed and very employable at the end of it. So let's celebrate the difference, as well as recognising what a fantastic job those new universities and the colleges are doing for the skills agenda at this moment in time.
It's a brilliant point. It's an ecosystem, and I think steadily in education we're realising that it's horses for courses, almost literally. And the challenge we've had traditionally is we haven't had that good enough choice to go down a more technical route, a more vocational route, and everyone's different. And some people do actually have quite a clear sense of what they want to do from an early age, and therefore if that's a more technical route, they absolutely need to be able to follow all of that. Lucy, I could see that you wanted to jump in, and obviously you're at the sharp end of doing all this Northumbria levelling up work from a university perspective.
I was wanting to jump in and just give a couple of examples to make some of the things again feel very real. And let's just touch on one of them, which we're so proud of, and that's our business clinic. So we have a cohort of business students who have a choice of doing a dissertation, or dissertations are tough, or would you like to spend 6 months doing a project with others working with the business in our business clinic? And this is actually not only providing an amazing opportunity for the students who take on a brief from a client. It's a consultancy, really, supervised by our academic colleagues. But they take on a brief from the client. They will visit the client's premises. They will understand what the problem is. They will go away and work on it. They will write business plans, or they will solve a problem. And this could be a multinational business. Our business clinic has included clients like Unilever, who've wanted to use the group of mixed students to work through their problems, or particularly there's a need for those in the cultural sector who don't have any money to work out how to really improve their website, or to change their marketing strategy, or to make the buildings safe post-COVID and so on. And working with a group of students on a real life project, and then these students sometimes quaking in their boots, back to building up confidence, going back to present to the business, is an incredible opportunity. So we've spread that out now, not just for business clinics, just for business students. Students with other disciplines can do it. So in our Amsterdam campus, and we're going to use a lot of the Turing money, which we've been allocated by government in place of Erasmus. We're going to use Turing money to send students from disadvantaged backgrounds to our Amsterdam campus to work with international organizations, mixing with international students. And that as a whole interesting way of working as well, because we want our students to have that international experience. And in our London campus, there are many of our students who haven't been to London. Shocking as that may seem, they haven't. I
don't think I went till I was about 14.
Yeah, they haven't had the
money. Told me that day I'd be an MP representing a bit of that city. I would have thought that was an absolutely ridiculous thing.
So, huge opportunities. And finally, I'll pause again. Something else that I'm really proud of that we've done this last year, we recognised that our students couldn't get out and get work experience. I was a lawyer in my old days, and I used to run a recruitment scheme which positively looked really hard at those students who'd worked in bars and shop works, especially when they were invited back the next year and they were given responsibility of cashing up or doing the timetabling, the rotoring and so on. It was all good skills. So in lockdown, they haven't had that opportunity. So instead, we've devised 100 paid internships within our own business. So we've got our own students doing paid internships at Northumbria in IT services. We've got a nursery, we've got all sorts going on. What an amazing opportunity for them to understand the business that they're studying in better, for us to keep really close to our students. So you work with some incredibly young, talented people who just remind you what our business is about to a certain extent. And we've got them doing research at a really early age as well when they've worked, around those opportunities. So we've carried on being creative whilst the world has changed so dramatically around us.
I think it's fascinating, and I'm also conscious that we're collectively running out of time. So I'm going to ask you all one final question, actually, really quick sort of response from all of you. So I'm going to ask you if there's one thing that can change in the Northeast that will really unlock levelling up, whether it's education, opportunity, whatever it is. I'm going to come around to all of you to sort of just give me that's the thing that needs to shift. I'm going to come to you difficultly, Beth, first. One thing levelling up the Northeast.
I think one of the things that I'm really thinking about is how do we create the opportunities here that mean that when people say leave the region for a period, they actually really want to come back and work here, or that people feel that they don't have to move to London to get the job that they're most interested in. And I think that's what we're really trying to achieve through the campus.
Brilliant. Sticky opportunity. Karen?
For me, it's that raising aspirations and that confidence for people of all ages to understand that it's never too late to have a go at something new or different, try a new career, try something they've always been interested in or found a new interest in.
Fantastic. Tracy?
Definitely echo Karen. I think it's remembering the people that could potentially be left behind. How can we work a bit harder? Is there more that we can do to reach those who are furthest from the jobs market, reach those young people and children who don't have that support network at home? How can we engage their parents as well, so that aspirations aren't lost as children get older because they're told that you'll never do that? So how can we do that together?
Brilliant. Thank you. Liz?
I think I'd like to launch a massive campaign called Having Pride in the Northeast. There is so much to be proud of that is always hidden, and actually surfacing that pride to create the confidence, the ambition, to get those kids out of those households that say you can't do it. Of course you can do it. Anyone can do it, and make the Northeast a catalyst for that proud change.
Brilliant. And final word then to Lucy.
It's breaking down the barriers. It's not making businesses look frightening. It's not making universities and colleges look frightening. It's capturing the hearts and minds at a really early stage, and all of it is driven by having a really strong Northeast economy. So more jobs for them to go to, more opportunities, and that might be inward investment. It might be growing our SMEs, using the talent in the region to help them grow. Or it might be our students having the confidence to create their own businesses, which many of them do now. So a combination of the three, a strong economy.
Brilliant. Well, look, we've finished today, but I think the key message that I took from this was, in a funny way, it's about partnership, isn't it? You've all got different parts of the levelling up solution, and it's about the fact that you can bring those together and have this common mission that is probably going to shift the dial for young people, because it's about closing gaps over a lifetime, which is the point that Karen's made. And that starts with education, with what Liz and Lucy are doing, but it then moves on very quickly to the kind of employment opportunities that Tracy, Beth and Karen, that three of you have got, but recognizing that gaps haven't closed then. It's not like the job's done when education finishes. The gaps are still there, and actually employers can play a huge role themselves in very overtly understanding and then being able to start closing them. It's just been a fantastic Levelling Up Goals webinar. Thank you so much for being part of it. We probably needed to have some representation from a man, I think, probably, but never mind. I guess we were women fixing this country over the past hour. So it's been brilliant having all of your perspectives, all of your leadership on levelling up and working with us on the Levelling Up Goals. Thank you so much. And I hope for all of you watching, you'll tune into the next seminar that we've got on the Levelling Up Goals.